Hey everybody, this is Izzy here coming to you with my review for the 2019 reimagining slash remake of The Lion King. Before I go ahead and get into the nitty gritty of the review, I'm going to go ahead and say something that I have been reading and hearing about all throughout the internet and various message boards and YouTube videos. I have gotten into several debates regarding the reviews with other critics in terms of The Lion King. And a lot of reviews have been, in my opinion, unjustly harsh. People need to understand that there is a reason why you go in with, I don't want to say tempered expectations, but a lot of individuals have went into this film expected it to be better than the 1994 classic. And I can understand that. But nothing is ever going to beat the original Lion King. Nothing's ever going to top that film. That film, the animated classic, is a classic for a reason. When we watched it in 1994, those who grew up watching it then and then throughout the years, it still is a beautiful nostalgia trip for us, as this is something that we grew up with through many years. And I was one of many people, when I first heard that they were doing this new version, this new computer generated imagery of the story, I was one of the many people who was saying that this was not necessary. This was a story that did not need to be touched. It was as perfect as it's ever going to be. But here we are. I said the same thing with Beauty and the Beast. Said the same thing with Aladdin. I think Aladdin and The Lion King is going to be very similar in terms of their success, where the reviews, as far as the critics is concerned, is very divisive and mixed. But then there are those who grew up with both films end up loving it. As far as The Lion King is concerned, I went in knowing that nothing was ever going to top the original. And if I went in expecting anything more than that, then of course I was going to be disappointed. That would be like me going to watch the new Terminator film, Dark Fate, that comes out, I think, this year or next year, and having in my brain that it's going to be better than Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which is never going to happen. Terminator 2 Judgment Day is one of my favorite action films of all time, and it's still one of the greatest films of all time. Nothing is ever going to top that. Nothing is ever going to match that in terms of the intensity, the emotionality, and the creativity, and the state-of-the-art visual effects that went into making it such a monumental film and story. Metallica, for example, as far as getting into the music realm here, Metallica is never going to release another Master of Puppets, Ride of Lightning, and Justice for All. Never going to happen. Megadeth is never going to release another album like Rust in Peace or Peace Sells. It's just, there's a certain films and music that where the artist has managed to create something so perfect that you expected anything other than that only exists in your head, and you set yourself up for disappointment, in my opinion. And there are many critics that feel as though that their word is the absolute gospel, and they use it to unjustly and harshly trash a film, making it seem like it's the worst creation ever, and that is so far from the truth, in my opinion. I don't want anyone to feel as though that my reviews is simply a way to try to talk down to anybody or make it seem like that my opinion is the absolute gospel, because it's not. You either watch the film and you enjoy it or you don't. I can't make anyone, or I can't force anyone to share the same opinions as I do. That's what makes us different. And with that said, I just want everyone to know that the reviews, from my perspective, are not, they don't necessarily coincide with what's being presented on the big screen. That I will say. As far as my review is concerned for this Lion King, I absolutely enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it provided just the perfect amount of familiarity of the storyline, as everybody's familiar with, and it just really managed to capture, for me, the magic that I experienced when I watched it for the very first time. It's a classic story. It's a beautiful story. It's an emotional story. And it's just one... I didn't feel as though that my childhood was ruined when I was watching it. To me, the perfect way to ruin the childhood mystique, if you will, would have been trying to modernize the songs as part of the soundtrack throughout the course of the film. The way to ruin the storyline would have been to try to add a more unnecessary bits of drama or originality in order to try to pad the story, pad the running time. And they didn't do any of that. It still is essentially the same film And I thought for what it accomplished, it did everything that it needed to do. I thought Donald Glover did an amazing job as Simba. I thought Beyonce, I mean, as we know, Nala is not really a huge part of the story, but I thought Beyonce did a pretty decent job as Nala. My only complaint is that I wish they would have gotten Jeremy Irons to do the voice of Scar again. It's not necessarily a huge complaint, but Jeremy Irons will always be Scar to me. While I did enjoy, I can never pronounce his name, I'll just say Chitwell. So please forgive me for this. Chitwell, I thought he did a brilliant job as Scar. And I think one of the coolest things about this film was how the relationship between the hyenas and Scar was vastly different from the original film, where they were more antagonistic towards each other and established a mistrust on both sides, rather than simply going with the familiar concept of them already having some sort of alliance and getting along. I thought that was a really cool concept that really propelled this story, well, the same story, into a much more charted territory. I thought Seth Rogen did Seth Rogen was the ideal casting for Pumbaa. He was pretty funny, in my opinion. James Earl Jones, and James Earl Jones, there will never be another one like him. He still manages to maintain that same authoritative voice that we have all grew up with, as far as, Mufasa, Darth Vader. His voice is iconic, and you will never have another voice like that. I was so thankful that they managed to bring him back. Now, that, I will say this, if the childhood was going to be ruined, they would have had somebody else try to do the voice of Mufasa. The fact that they got James Earl Jones again is proof that they respected everybody's opinion and feelings as far as the Mufasa's character is concerned. The soundtrack is still the soundtrack of The Lion King is still one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. You will never find a greater soundtrack than that as far as Walt Disney is concerned. The cinematography, as far as the visual effects, the updated visual effects, is absolutely magnificent. I thought it was so beautiful watching how lifelike the animals were. The tigers, the antelopes, the zebras, the lions, obviously, the cheetahs. It was just, even the hyenas. I love the fact that they look like real hyenas. And the hyenas were very creepy looking. Obviously, anyone who knows what a hyena looks like, obviously they are creepy. And the fact that they managed to incorporate the animalistic sounds that the hyenas make was just chilling, very chilling. And another thing I wanted to point out, I love the fact that when we're going over the story of Simba with Nala when they were young cubs, I love that the singing voices sound very similar to Jason Weaver during the original Lion King. I felt myself tearing up quite a bit during the course of this film. It was very. I will once again state that I really enjoyed the fact that even though it was modern, the visual effects are a lot more modernized and more advanced and realistic. And when the Mufasa death occurred, I was actually very glad that they scaled back and they didn't really go more into the brutal territory with him being trampled. That would have been too heartbreaking for me. And I shed a couple tears. I'm not ashamed to admit it. That is still a very tragic death in the Walt Disney franchise. And the fact that we saw Simba as a cub in this new version beg his father to get up, to wake up, it was too heartbreaking. Very heartbreaking. They managed to capture that emotionality so perfectly, and that hit me. That hit me hard in the heart and the soul. But overall, I really enjoyed the fact that it was still the same story, and they managed to capture it very beautifully. And as far as my rating is concerned, I give it a 5 out of 5. I really do. I know there are some people who might hear this review or read the review and maybe possibly roll their eyes or disagree with me, and that's fine. But I want everybody to know that as far as I consider myself a pretty harsh critic to a degree. And usually, if there's a film that I don't like, I typically don't do a review on it. But I did a review on this because this was it still is a huge part of my childhood, and I love the story of The Lion King. I will always love it, and it's a story that I will most likely introduce my children to in the future. I give it a 5 out of 5, 2 thumbs up. Beautiful visual effects, beautiful music. Once again, familiar songs that I found myself tapping my foot to and singing along to in my head. And it seemed like the audience that I was a part of on today was very appreciative and even gave it a standing ovation. I know that some people might say that I'm exaggerating that, but I promise you it happened. The entire audience gave it a standing ovation. So evidently, there are a lot of people who really did enjoy this new version of The Lion King. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's the same story, and I loved it. And I hope everybody else gives it a chance. Those who are apprehensive about it and not necessarily sure of whether or not they want to go experience this, I say go ahead and experience it. You have nothing else to lose, honestly. But at the end of the day, it's still completely up to you. Take my review for what it is, and I sincerely hope that everyone who has watched the trailer or even read the reviews and maybe feel as if they should have given it a chance, I'm asking you, as a Sumter film critic, please give it a chance. I don't believe you'll be disappointed, and I hope you guys get a chance to watch it and enjoy it for what it is. 2 thumbs up, 5 out of 5. Next review is going to be Hobbs and Shaw when that is released on August 2nd. And I hope to see you guys again, and be safe and take care, my friends. Adios.